Hello, and welcome to Conversations Worth Your While, a show in which I chat with authentic, heart centered experts about interesting topics to spark, inspire, and motivate positive change. I'm your host, Linda Bucher, lighting the way for ripple makers to learn, grow, thrive, and affect positive change in the world. And I believe that each of us has unique gifts to share with the world, and that you are here to make big, beautiful, positive ripples that no one else can make. My gift is lighting the way for that to happen. And I know that you, our community, are dedicated to consciously expanding your knowledge, your emotional intelligence, and your impact, which is why I'm so excited to be talking to you today about making the right connections to make the world a better place. This conversation is worth your while because we're put here to care for each other and make the world a better place. And there are so many beautiful organizations doing just that. But there are also so many matters of urgency. Good thing there's generous souls out there who want to help the world be a better place. So even if you're not involved with a nonprofit or a philanthropic foundation organization, this conversation will open your awareness, and awareness is the first step to positive change. So let's start with some introductions. Once again, I'm Linda Bucher, and at the heart of everything I do, I'm not only a ripple maker, I'm a servant leader. I am in service as a master coach, a mindset mentor, a speaker, a show host, and an author. And my expertise lies in synthesizing my experience, skills, and talents to coach, lead, mentor, and teach. And I'm always looking for people to love, opportunities to serve, and partnerships to engage in. So if you're ready to make ripples of your own, visit my website at www.lindabucher.com. And my guest today is truly making ripples of her own. I am so pleased to be here with Melanie Yohe of Grant Strategies LLC, who helps nonprofit organizations across the globe to secure the funding that they need to make the world a better place. So, hi, Melanie. Thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. So, tell us, a little bit more about why you are so passionate about this, about um, securing funding to help, these other ripple making organizations to really be in service of the world. Tell me more.
Well, there's so much need out there. There are so many things in our world that are just not the way they should be. And there are so many wonderful organizations doing everything they can, excuse me, to improve situations. One of the biggest stumbling blocks they have is finding the funding to make things happen. And I really I enjoy being able to help connect them with funders that not only can provide them immediately with dollars to do what they want to do right now, but funders that are also going to be interested in forming a real relationship with them and helping them long term.
Mm.
Uh, I feel like my impact is behind the scenes, but I also feel like it's really important and they couldn't do it without me.
That's right. See, hence you are a ripple maker. Same, like it's the same thing with me behind the scenes. The more that my clients soar and the bigger ripples they make, like, if they couldn't make those ripples without me making my ripple, right? So this is what I mean. This is the big, beautiful ripple effect, is our ripples are overlapping, and our ripples reach others. They reach others that we can't even know, because then they're making ripples that are reaching others we can't even know. We have such a bigger impact than we believe that we know than we know. So I absolutely love that you are doing this. So first of all, I would love if you would share a story about a project where you made the right connections, but because you're like a matchmaker, right? That's what you do. You're like this matchmaker. You get like the right people connected together. So, and I love that it's so that we can make the world a better place. Like that, when we do things like that, it feels so good. It doesn't even feel like work, right? It feels like lovely. So I would love if you would share a story about a funding project that you worked on that just like really sticks with you.
Well, I worked for 5 years with an organization that works primarily in Puerto Rico.
Okay.
And what they do is they invite world-renowned musicians from all over the globe to converge on the island twice a year for 2 to 3 weeks, and they offer master classes, outreach events, and concerts, free concerts. All of it is free for underserved populations in Puerto Rico. They work with music students. They work with individuals from preschool through college. They invite young artists to participate in all the activities of the orchestra while they're there in Puerto Rico. They travel around the island, just putting on these free events that really uplift and reach the people of Puerto Rico who are they've been through so much in the last
Right.
handful of years, between earthquakes and hurricanes and the pandemic. So they really need the healing that music can.
Mm.
And
I'm a music junkie. So music is healing basically no matter where you live.
Yeah.
But this sounds like such a beautiful project. I mean that, and it's so big, and this isn't ongoing. It happens every year, twice a year. So I can imagine they must need a whole lot of funding to make that happen.
Yes, they do. Yes,
Right.
they do. And yes, they need a lot of funding. And I have been privileged to contribute to that. In fact, one of the very first grants I wrote was a National Endowment for the Arts grant for this organization.
Mm.
It was extremely rewarding to successfully write, first of all, a federal grant, and second of all, the NEA. And for it was just really huge, and it was very rewarding. And I have just a little story about an example for you of the kind of impact that the work this orchestra does has.
Right. Tell me about the ripple.
There was several years ago, probably 5 years ago, when the orchestra was in Puerto Rico. One of the musicians, who happens to play professionally in California and also teaches in one of the UC schools, met a young man who she recognized that he had talent, but he had a miserable instrument that wasn't worth playing on. She was able to connect him with someone who could provide a decent instrument for him. He continued studying music. He went on to actually come to the continental US and study at the UC school that she taught at. And last year he graduated and returned to Puerto Rico. Sorry. Returned to Puerto Rico, and now he is playing with the Puerto Rican Orchestra in San Juan, and teaching, and just continuing that legacy of helping underserved students and populations just really have an opportunity to experience music and study it. And it's just amazing. So awesome.
That is such a beautiful story. And it shows how, like you start by making this connection so they get the funding so that they can do this thing, because someone can be involved in this beautiful concert and educational happenings that are happening twice a year there, that now this teacher recognizes talent and a student and makes it happen for that student so that that student can make beautiful music, which will ripple forever. But not just that student now is actually making that beautiful music and paying it forward. That's what happens. Like it, when we connect, on a similar mission. Everyone has this similar mission to make the world a better place. And there's so many different ways, through connecting the funding, through music, through opening doors for underprivileged, and underserved. Whoa. And it takes a village for sure. We all know that. But what's beautiful is that the ripples multiply as those who have been assisted pay it forward. And not only do they ripple that way, but on another dimension, and you use the word legacy, and I adore the word legacy, because I know that our children, they won't do what we say, they will do what they see. Right. So when they see that this is a natural thing, that the world helps itself, that there are humans who are dedicated to things beyond the selfishness of just, oh, me and my own life. How can I make my life better? Right. And they don't have to be mutually exclusive. I don't want to say that, like, yes, you should and can make your life better. Absolutely. But one of the most beautiful ways to make it better is through giving. It's through being in service. And that doesn't mean you have to give money. That we're not here to tell people to give money to any funding. Like, we're talking about these grant writing organizations who actually have philanthropic, I can't say that word, philanthropic, there we go, funds, or government funds available for these purposes. So, but they're, but making the connection. So I like to talk about awareness. Like, that's what I opened with today, because when we can make people aware that, you can be a connector in some way, like, that's huge. And you just shared a story where there was people connecting in lots of different ways. And that's really what we're talking about today, is making the right connections to make beautiful things happen, to make this world a better place. So let's talk about that funding. Let's move over to the funding piece. Okay. So I sit on the board of directors for a not-for-profit, and we have a beautiful endowment from the founder, and the organization has not met its costs. So we're using this endowment, and there's going to be a point where it's going to be like, it's all gone, And so, but yet, to make the organization, it's a beautiful organization. It's called She Can. And if anyone wants to look it up, it's theshecannetwork.com. And it's really about empowering women. And we don't want our membership to be so expensive that we can only empower women who have lots of money. Like, that is not our intent. So we want to keep our membership costs really low. And we have been struggling for 4 years because we provide really great programming. So we're not cutting back our services so that we can, make ends meet. Even though that's been thrown out there, but then we don't meet our charter with the things we want to do. We keep adding services, and it's beautiful. It's such a beautiful organization. And so, but we're like, how do we find some other funding? What could we try to get sponsors? And we try all these fundraising things, which don't end up, like, we might one year we put on a giant gala. I think we profited $2,500. It wasn't even worth the work for all the women put in to make this gala. So
the other thing too is, for an event like that, first time funders, 75% is your attrition rate for first time funders from an event like that. The next year, you're doing all the same work all over again, just to recover, 75%
right.
of what you did the year before. It's like you're treading water. You're never gaining any ground.
Right. So we don't know what's out there. That's my point, I guess, of all that. So why aren't we aware of all this funding? I know there's dollars out there, but where is it? How do we find it?
Part of the problem is that 90% of grant making foundations in the US don't even have websites. So if you try and Google search looking for funding for your organization, you're not going to find much. Some of the one of the important ways that I access the information is I have subscription services that connect with the funders. And so that's the first step. You have to know where to look. And also a lot of times you have to pay for the information. And that's I absorb that. That's one of the things that I do is I subscribe to a number of services, and I'm able to find a broad range of funding from foundations and government entities and corporate entities that do philanthropic work, as well as foundations and organizations around the world. I have access to that information, and that's part of that's the missing piece. When you first start looking and you want to throw up your hands and say there's nothing out there, there really is. It's just really hard to
right. Because we're like local, right? So we're going to the big name banks in town, and the big name companies in town who have their corporate headquarters here, and they're very generous. But it just, we get a little here, a little there, a little here, a little there, and it's so constant, and it's just so, and then we're trying to have these fundraisers where we invite the public, and they're just a whole lot of work for a whole little nothing. We really would rather spend our time being in service. So,
Right.
right. So hosting events that we're not trying to get money from, we're hosting events that are in service of the community we're trying to serve.
Right.
So, something that's very beautiful, though, that you had mentioned to me prior when I was speaking with you about grant writing for She Can, is that the mission, right? That there's a mission alignment. So, you know, my mission is to light the way for ripple makers in the world, because I believe we each have important gifts that only you can give, each one of us that are as unique as you are. And so my job and my mission and my gift and my privilege is to light the way to get those gifts out in the world so you can make these ripples that you're here to make. And so that's my mission. So I hook up with She Can. They invite me to be on the board because their mission is completely in alignment with my mission. So I'm in service with someone, with an organization that is in alignment with my mission. And now, from what I understand from you is, a lot of the times the money doesn't come from like some philanthropic foundations like, oh, who needs money? I'm throwing it around. That really they have a mission that's in alignment as well. So you're like, you want to match, as the matchmaker, you're matchmaking the vision of the funder and the mission of the funder with the mission and vision of the not-for-profit. So can you say a little bit more about that?
Sure. Funders, as you said, are not just people with deep pockets who are just looking for places to throw their money. They have very specific criteria. They have very specific vision and mission, and they look at an organization that does the work as their boots on the ground to accomplish their mission. So it's really important when you're seeking funding, especially grant funding, to be in a line. Your mission is the same as the funder's mission. And it's also really important to be able to articulate that clearly in a language that the funder is going to connect with and understand. And the really, truly awesome part of that is when you find the right match, when the funder and the organization doing the work are well aligned. Very often what happens is the funder doesn't just say, okay, you're doing this for this year, here's the money you need to do that, go do it. They say, wow, this is really great, we love what you're doing, here's money to do what we just talked about, but tell us more, tell us what you need going forward, tell us what you're doing next that we can help you with. And that's when I help my clients make those connections. That's really it used to, of course, when I got that first NEA grant, that was a huge rush. Now I've done that so many times that's like, oh yeah, I got another one, whatever. The real rush for me now is when I make those real connections for my clients where they find support, not just for the moment, but moving forward. And it helps to really stabilize the organization so that they can relax and, like you said, go about the business of doing what they want to be doing rather than worrying about where are we ever going to find the money to do this. That's the connections are just that's just the really exciting part of this for me, making the connections.
Making connections. Yeah. Well, that's what I want to invite our audience to do today. You may not sit on the board of a not-for-profit. You may not be involved with a philanthropic organization or a government grant agency, an agent or whatever, I'm not even sure you would call them. But we all know a lot of people. And just this awareness that today's conversation has opened up to be aware of how you can be part of something bigger. If you know of anyone who sits on a not-for-profit, I would encourage you to put them in touch with Melanie because Melanie is making some big ripples by helping some beautiful organizations that are in alignment with her vision, which is to make the world a better place. So if you know a not-for-profit that's what they're trying to do, get them in, if you know anyone in there, just say, you listen to this, just listen to this conversation, just send them the link, for this conversation. That's the way, audience member, that you can make some ripples today. So I really hope everybody enjoyed this conversation. I enjoyed it so much. And Melanie, I just want to say thank you very much for being on Conversations Worth Your While. How could someone contact you if they have questions or want to learn a little bit more, or maybe they want to be able to give and they want to know what organizations are you working with where that meet my personal mission, right? So how can you be contacted?
Um, um, Through my website, it's GrantStrategiesLLC.com, and there's a contact me page there where you can just reach out to me, and if you want to have a conversation or if you want more information, I'm happy to speak with anybody.
That's great. It's really nice to be able to have a conversation, so that's lovely that you offer that. And I will make sure that your information, your connection information is in the description of this episode. Okay, so once again, I'm Linda Bucher, lighting the way for ripple makers to learn, grow, thrive, and affect positive change in the world. And I'd like to thank Melanie Yohe of Grant Strategies LLC for being here and sharing her beautiful ripples with us today. So thank you.
Thank you. I enjoyed it. It was fun. Thanks
Oh,
so much.
excellent. And also, I want to thank you, devoted listener, for sharing your time with us today. So until next time, please make this conversation worth your while by sharing, by fueling the spark that it ignited and sharing the episodes with your friends. Thank you and have a wonderful day.